Had started with Unit 5 of your course accounting, which deals with cost analysis for control. And under this particular topic, we had started with budgetary control. We talked about the meaning of the term budgetary control. And under budgetary control, we learned that there were quite a few other terms that we are dealing with. So we learned about the term budget, the meaning and definition of a budget, also about budgeting, and also control and budgetary control. Then we also saw the differences between forecast and budget, wherein we saw that forecast and budget are both relating to foreseeing of future events, but still we saw quite a few of the differences between these two. And additionally, we also saw about the different objectives of budgetary control, which include planning, coordination, and so on. And additionally, we saw also the advantages of budgetary control to a firm. And in contrast to that, we also saw that the limitations or the disadvantages of budgetary control. Okay, so moving on today, we're talking with the next topic now. So today we're going to be dealing with another term known as the budget manual. So a budget manual, basically it lays down the details of the organizational setup, the routine procedures, as well as the programs to be followed for developing budgets for various items, and the duties and responsibilities of the executives regarding the operation of the budgetary control system. So this is the meaning of your budget manual. And you have a definition given by CIMA London, and they have defined a budget manual as a document, schedule, or booklet which set out inter alia the responsibilities of the persons engaged in the routine of and the forms and records required for budgetary control. So basically, a budget manual is nothing more than a written document which will guide the executives in planning of the different budgets. And budgets are to be drawn, they are to be made keeping in mind the different objectives of the organization that have been given in the budget manual. Now, the responsibilities and functions of each executive with regards to budgeting will be written down in the budget manual in order to avoid any kinds of duplication or even overlapping of duties, so that other people will not do the same work again. So the different steps and methods for developing various budgets and the methods of reporting the performance against the budget are also going to be mentioned in your budget manual. So in short, a budget manual, we can say it is just a written document which contains or which gives everything relating to the preparation as well as the execution of your various budgets. So the budget manual, it should be clear, it should not be vague, there should be no ambiguity. Whatever is mentioned, it should be very much specific, that the moment you read it, you'll understand it. And the manual can be divided into separate sections so that each manager can issue only that section appropriate to his work and responsibilities. Okay, so it'll be divided into different sections such that the manager that is dealing with production will only get the production manual. The manager who's dealing with sales will only get the information with regarding to sales. Okay, so that they don't confuse all the different duties. So let's look at the different salient features of your budget manual. So based upon what we have just discussed earlier, we can see that the various features of a budget manual can be described this way. So budget manual should contain information which are required for effective budgetary planning. Okay, that is one of the important features. It contains all these information which are going to be used in order to ensure there is effective budgetary planning. And a budget manual is basically a collection of documents which contains key information, especially to be used for those who are involved in the planning process. And it also contains an introductory explanation of budgetary planning and also the control process, and includes also a statement of budgetary objective and desired results as well. And additionally, budget manual will contain a form of organizational chart to show who is responsible for the preparation of which budget and the way in which budgets are interrelated. There are going to be multiple budgets, so the budget manual will show you who is preparing that budget and how that budget is interrelated with the other budgets of the organization. So it contains also a timetable for the preparation of each budget, the time limit, how much time it requires for budget, and what is the duration of the budget. And additionally, copies of all forms to be completed by those responsible for preparing the budgets with explanations concerning their completion should also be included in your budget manual. Okay, so these are the salient features. So next, what should be contained in the budget manual, or what are the contents of your budget manual? So the budget manual, it should contain an introduction and also a brief explanation of the objective, the benefits, as well as the principles of the budgetary control system. Why do we need it? What is the purpose? What are the benefits that we're getting out of it? And what are the rules to be followed while carrying out your budgetary control system? And then clear-cut definition also of lines of authority and responsibility also will be mentioned in your budget manual. Who is responsible to whom and who has authority above whom. And then the organization charts with the titles of line managers also will be there in your budget manual. Additionally, duties, responsibilities of line managers, budget committee, and also of your budget officer will be mentioned in the budget manual. And next, the method of preparation of your different budgets will also be mentioned in the budget manual. And then the time schedules for budget preparation, and then time lag between two budget reports, that is your performance reports. That is how much time it takes for you to prepare your current budget report and your previous budget report, and then instructions for preparing, submission, and approval of budgets, and then procedures to be followed for obtaining approval for budgets, and then number and names of budget centers also should be clearly stated in the budget manual, and then the account codes that are to be used in the budgets. Okay, if you're using mnemonics, or if you're using, let's say, in case of production, maybe you're using P02, okay, maybe that's the name. Okay, so the code names also should all be mentioned in your budget manual. And additionally, the purpose, specimen form, and number of copies to be used for each report and statement. Then the length of budget periods and control periods are also to be clearly stated in your budget manual. And the brief explanation for any follow-up procedures if you have, and also explanation about the main budgets and their accounting relationship with each other, and also explanation about your various key budgets. All of these should be within the budget manual. And what exactly are the advantages of a budget manual? So when it comes to a budget manual, it is important for an organization to prepare a budget manual because it has these few advantages. So firstly, maximum profit can be earned by an organization. With the help of a budget manual, we can try to find the maximum amount of profit that an organization can earn. Secondly, each employee understands what his or her role is, what is to be done, and how it is to be done under budgetary control system. Because as per the budgetary control system, each person will have a defined role. So it's easier for the employees to understand what to do, when to do, how to do. Okay, and next, problems can be easily solved because as per the budget manual, we already have a standard that has been fixed, right? We have a budget standard, and based on that, if there are any deviations, we'll be able to figure out the problem easily and solve those problems also. And additionally, there is a better allocation and utilization of available resources because they try to make the most optimum utilization of the available resources by making sure that the budget has been allocated properly. Therefore, they'll be properly utilizing the available resources. And then the new employees can understand the procedures themselves because you have already divided what to do, how to do, right? So it makes it easier for new employees also who enter into the organization to figure out what is the work that they have to do. And the next point, as everything is available in black and white form, there is no ambiguity. Okay, it's not white and block, it's actually white and black or black and white form, meaning everything is written, everything is in a form that can be seen by others, can be read, can be understood by others. So there is transparency and there is no ambiguity. We can easily understand what is to be done. And the next point is that it standardizes methods and procedures involved in budgetary control. And finally, there is no difficulty in obtaining coordination among the line managers because each person's job, each person's work has already been clearly defined. And as a result of that, it's not difficult for the organization to be able to coordinate the line managers because they themselves are already defining what their work is. So it makes the life of managers a lot easier with the help of the existence of the budget manual. Okay, so those are the advantages of your budget manual. And next you have your budget period. So budget period can be defined as the period for which the budget is going to be prepared and employed. So the duration from when the budget is going to be made and when it will be in practice or when it will be used. And the budget period will depend upon two factors. Firstly, the type of business, and secondly, the control aspect. So what type of business? Is it a large business? Is it a small business? And control, is it centralized, decentralized? Okay, so it depends upon these two aspects. So there should be a regular time plan for your budget preparation, and this time plan could be either long-term, that is for 3 to 5 years. Okay, so these long-term budgets are generally prepared for expansion and your modernization of the business, and also for introduction of new products or new projects, and also undertaking heavy advertisements. And besides that, you can also have annual budgets. So annual budgets are those which coincide with your financial accounting year. They are yearly budgets, and they should be prepared mostly for the operational activities like your sales, purchases, production, etc. All of these other kinds of activities of your business. And the third kind of time plan that you can have for budget preparation will be based upon control purposes. So based upon control purposes, you can have your short-term budgets such as monthly. You can even have weekly budgets, which are all prepared for the purpose of watching the progress of the organization and comparing them with the targets. Okay, so comparing the actual performance against the standard or the target performance of the firm that has already been fixed. Now, short-term budgets are mostly prepared to see that the actual performance is proceeding according to the budgets, and in order to ensure that they are working in the correct way, and to see that if there are any problems, corrective action may be taken in order to control or to stop any deviations. Okay, so this is budget period. And next, we'll talk about the classification of budgets. So when we're talking about budgets, budgets can be classified according to their nature. And these three classifications are the most common classifications of your budget. So you have three main classifications: classification according to time, classification based upon the functions to be performed, and classification on the basis of flexibility. So for classification according to time, you have sub-classifications. They are sub-classified into long-term budgets, short-term budgets, and you also have current budgets. And with regards to classification based upon functions, you have your functional budget, also known as subsidiary budgets, and you also have your master budget. And finally, classification on the basis of flexibility, you have your fixed budget and you have your flexible budget. So firstly, let's look at the classification on the basis of time with the sub-classification long-term, short-term, and current budgets. Firstly, long-term budgets. So your long-term budgets are those budgets which are prepared to reflect long-term planning of the business. That is for the long life of your business. Okay, for any of the longer duration or longer work of your business. So generally, the long-term period, it varies between a period of 5 to 10 years. So the long-term budgets are generally prepared for a period of 5 to 10 years, and they are prepared mostly by the top level management. And the long-term budgets are going to be prepared for specialized activities such as your capital expenditure, research and development, long-term finances, and so on. Okay, so in short, long-term budgets are those budgets which are prepared for your long-term planning, and long-term planning generally involves acquisition of assets and then research and development and other product expansions and all those things. Okay, so that is long-term budget. And secondly, you have your short-term budgets. So short-term budgets are basically prepared for a short duration of 1 year, and they are generally expressed in terms of money. And finally, you have your current budgets. Current budgets are those budgets which are prepared for the current time period. That is, they are prepared generally for a shorter duration of time, lesser than 1 year, so in months, weeks. And these budgets are prepared mostly for current operations of the business. In fact, as per ICMA London, they have defined a current budget as: current budget is a budget which is established for use over a short period of time and is related to current conditions, that is, relating to the current workings of the organization, and mostly these are for your working capital needs. Okay, the current budgets are normally for your working capital situation. And the second classification for budgets is classification on the basis of functions. And on the basis of functions, you have been the budgets have been subclassified into functional budgets and master budget. So firstly, functional budgets, they are budgets which are relating to various functions of the organization, various functions of your firm, such as sales, production, research and development, and then cash. Okay, so the most commonly prepared functional budgets include your purchase budget, cash budget, production budget, sales budget, materials budget, and so on. So in short, functional budgets are budgets which are created for carrying out different functions. Okay, so what are the functions of the organization? They could be sales, they could be production, they could be marketing, Based upon that, you can have your sales budget, production budget, marketing budget. All right. So depending upon the functions, you can subclassify your budgets. And the second subclassification under the classification of basis of functions, you have master budget. So the master budget is basically a budget which summarizes the different functional budgets. Okay, this budget is a summary of your different functional budgets, and it generally encompasses, or it covers, all the activities of the whole organization. So according to the ICMA London, they have defined master budget as, the master budget is the summary budget incorporating various functional budgets. In fact, master budget is prepared in order to coordinate the activities of various functional departments. The master budget is made in order to ensure that the budgets of your various functional departments are in line with each other, or they're working together in order to achieve the organizational goal. In fact, as per the CIMA, Chartered Institute of Management Accountant of England, the summary budget incorporating its component functional budgets and which is finally approved, adopted and employed is termed as your master budget. And the master budget is generally prepared by the budget committee on the basis of your coordinated functional budgets. So the master budget will be prepared based upon the functional budget. So you can just say that the master budget includes all of your functional budgets, and they become a target for the company during the budget period when it's finally approved by the committee. And the budget summarizes functional budgets to produce a budgeted profit and loss account and also a budgeted balance sheet as at the end of the budget period. So towards the end of the budget period, with the help of the master budget, the master budget will summarize the functional budgets in order to provide you with a budgeted profit and loss and budgeted balance sheet. Not your final profit and loss account, but a budgeted financial statement account. All right. And the last classification of your budgets is on the basis of the flexibility. On the basis of flexibility, the budgets, we can see they have been subclassified into fixed budget and flexible budget. So fixed budget, from the name itself, is a budget that is fixed, that does not change, and flexible is one which is going to be keeping on changing. Okay, so let's look into this fixed budget first. So a fixed budget is basically drawn for one level of activity and one set of conditions. Okay, it's only for one particular work, and it has been defined as a budget which is designed to remain unchanged irrespective of the volume of output or turnover attained, no matter what amount of output or no matter how much income is in the organization. Even though these amounts keep on changing, your fixed budget will not change. In fact, it is a very rigid budget, and it is drawn based upon the assumption that output and sales can be accurately estimated, or that it is also based upon the assumption that there will be no change in the budgeted level of activity. Okay, so it does not take into consideration any change in expenditure which arises due to a change in the level of activity, or change in the amount of profit, or change in the amount of turnover. Okay, it does not consider all of these expenditures which arise as a result of that. So a fixed budget will therefore be useful only when the actual level of activity will correspond to the budgeted level of activity. It is only useful when the actual amount will be equal to the budgeted level, because that is the actual amount of work is equal to the standard that has been fixed. And the next under flexibility you have is your flexible budget. So flexible budget is the opposite of a fixed budget. Fixed budget is very rigid, but flexible budget is one that can be changed depending upon the needs. So a flexible budget is a budget which, by recognizing the difference between your fixed, semi-variable and variable cost, will be designed to change in relation to the activity attained. And the Chartered Institute of Management Accountants, CIMA London, it has defined a flexible budget as a budget which, by recognizing the difference in behavior between fixed and variable costs in relation to fluctuations in the output, turnover, or other variable factors such as number of employees, will be designed to change appropriately with such fluctuations. Therefore, flexible budget will be giving different budgeted costs for different levels of activity. So in case of flexible budget, we are going to be considering all your different types of costs, your fixed costs, your semi-variable or your semi-fixed costs, and also your variable cost. So a flexible budget will give you different budgeted costs for different levels of activity. If output is 10,000, the cost will be different. If the output is 6,000, the cost will be different once again. So a flexible budget will be prepared after making an intelligent classification of all expenses between fixed, semi-variable and variable. So it's very important in case of a flexible budget to distinguish or to differentiate between your three types of costs. That is your fixed cost, semi-variable costs and your variable costs. In case of fixed budget, we do not have to make a clear distinction between these three costs. But in case of flexible budget, we have to be very careful about the classification of your different kinds of costs. Okay, so this is about the classification of your budgets. Remember, it will be classified based on time, based upon the functions, and also based upon flexibility. So generally, we are going to be dealing with a lot with your fixed budget and flexible budget, and additionally also with your functional budgets and master budgets. So I'll be sending you the theories with regards to all of this that we've done so far, and from the next session onwards, we'll be starting with the problems with regards to your budgetary control.